Hi, I'm Bailey Murphy, Math ERT. In this Dive in 5, we're going to focus on kindergarten measurement. In this first task, I want you to pause the video, complete the task on your own with a team or a partner. Consider what does student learning need to look like for students to be successful with each of these tasks? And then what are some misconceptions that your students might have and how can we address those misconceptions? Here are your tasks and we'll see you back in just a minute. Welcome back. Let's go ahead and take a look at the measurement progression within BEST. So in kindergarten, students are expected to identify measurable attributes of objects, directly compare two objects with a common measurable attribute and describe the difference. And they're also going to be expected to use non-standard units to measure the length of objects up to 20 units long. This learning will continue on in first grade, where students will be expected to estimate the length of objects to the nearest inch. They'll also start to measure the length of objects with standard units such as inch and centimeters, and they will directly and indirectly compare and order the length of up to 3 objects. In this Dive in 5, we're going to focus on the kindergarten benchmarks. Kindergarten students first need to identify measurable attributes, and that includes length, weight, and volume, things that can be measured with numerical units or with tools. In kindergarten, students should really explore the difference between measurable attributes and non-measurable attributes of objects. So if we think about this water bottle, for example, we know that volume and height are measurable attributes, while color is a non-measurable attribute. Once students can identify measurable attributes, they should be asked to describe the attributes of objects using different languages such as tall, short, long, and light, similar to the task that you were asked to do at the beginning of the video. Students may also start to use language like shorter, taller, longer, heavier, or lighter, which will help them when they come to directly compare the measurable attributes of objects. After students are successful with identifying measurable attributes, they'll begin to directly compare two objects that have a common measurable attribute and use a comparison language to describe the difference. To directly compare objects with common measurable attributes, they should be placed right next to each other, and this could include concrete objects or pictures of objects. In the example on the screen, I have two pencils that I have placed together. The measurable attribute that they have in common is length, and I could say that the red pencil is longer than the yellow pencil, or the yellow pencil is shorter than the red pencil. In the task you were asked to do at the beginning of the video, students were asked to find the comparison between length, weight, volume, and height. Students may struggle with using the correct vocabulary for a specific measurable attribute. So for example, length, you would use the words like longer and shorter. However, with weight, you would say heavier or lighter. In kindergarten, it is not the intention that students use numerical measurement to compare objects. In kindergarten, students are expected to measure the length of an object using non-standard units for objects up to 20 units long. Non-standard units are anything that are not typically used to measure objects. That includes paper clips, candy bars, color tiles, or even unit cubes. If we think about measuring with non-standard units, we need students to understand that they are laying copies of the same object end to end with no gaps or overlap. If you look at the top pencil, you can see that the paper clips are lined up together and there are no gaps or overlap, and that is measured correctly, whereas the pencil below has gaps between the paper clip and is not an accurate measurement. Students should be given opportunities to measure a single object with multiple non-standard units. So for example, I could measure this pencil with color tiles and I can see that the measurement is 5 color tiles. It's important that students define what unit they're measuring in because I could also measure this with paper clips and this would be 8 paper clips long. We want students to make that connection that when the units are smaller, you're going to need more units or a higher number of those units to measure that object. When we think about concrete representation and abstract thinking within measurement, we know that students are going to need to go back and forth between the islands to make really strong connections. Students should be given a lot of opportunities with concrete objects to identify measurable attributes, as well as directly compare and measure with non-standard units. Students can also be asked to directly compare and measure pictures of objects, and that would be in that representation thinking. As students begin to think about the relationship between measurable attributes, they may begin to understand direct comparisons, such as the ladder is taller than the man, without having to have those objects in front of them. Remember, it's not a race to the end. Thanks so much for joining me for this Dive in 5 for measurement in kindergarten. Hope you join us for our next video. See you soon.